which they say could have been used to aid small businesses hit by the pandemic. The DTI admits the submitted 22 billion peso spending proposal has yet to take into account during the COVID-19 crisis.
Na kailangan po natin sigurong lakihan ang pondo overall ng DTI. At kung hindi man po ito mangyayari, siguro po sapat na lang po na ang una nating, kung pwede ho, palakihin ng pondo ay ang tulong natin sa micro, small, and medium enterprises. No? That's number one. The 2.2B is, hindi ho ito makakatulong no? Especially right now ho, na mabigat po ang hinaharap natin.
Senate President Vicente Soto has filed a bill requiring government officials and employees to submit an annual medical certificate indicating their fitness for work. According to Soto, Senate Bill 1818, or the proposed Fit to Work Act, seeks to ensure that public servants are in the right state of health to perform tasks satisfactorily. This will also make sure that government workers will provide adequate service to the public. Bayan Secretary General Renato Reyes, for his part, asked if the bill also covers the country's highest official, President Rodrigo Duterte. There have been numerous calls for the palace to disclose the president's state of health, with the chief executive himself admitting he has a number of ailments and conditions, including myasthenia gravis and Berger's disease. In May, the Supreme Court dismissed the petition seeking to compel Malacanang to disclose Duterte's health condition. Human Rights Watch is reporting that the government's war on drugs campaign has worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the report, killings related to the government's anti-drug campaign rose by 50% from April to July 2020. That compares to the numbers posted from December 2019 to March this year. Citing government statistics, the Human Rights Watch said 155 persons were killed in the 4 months that the country was placed on community quarantine. At the beginning of the year, the number of fatalities stood at 103. But for comment, presidential spokesman Harry Roque said the palace has nothing to say about it, as they are not sure what kind of methodology was used for the report. Roque also reminded the public to scrutinize any and all reports.
Pero alalahanin po natin ang Human Rights Watch, ganyan talaga ang trabaho ng mga human rights groups. No? Mag-ingay para yung mga gobyerno pakinggan sila. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na lahat ng sinasabi nila ay gospel truths.
Most Filipinos expect the Philippine economy to worsen over the next 12 months. That's according to an SWS survey conducted last July. That translates to 40% of respondents against 30% who believe the economy will improve in the next year. 24% of the respondents do not see any changes happening. Palace spokesman Harry Roque says that while they understand the country's pessimism, the worst has already hit us since the lockdowns were imposed in March. Roque urged the public to be resilient. He said the only way to go for the country is up. While the government and the country's health workers battle COVID-19, some individuals are facing their own demons as they fight to keep their mental health in check. And on this year's World Suicide Prevention Day, various groups are urging those who are struggling to seek help. Faith Del Mundo with the story.
Months since the country has been placed under quarantine protocols, Bernadette finds it difficult to adjust to the so-called new normal. Despite staying at home since lockdowns were imposed in March, her remote work is eating up most of her supposed me time. Her constant fear of contracting COVID-19 is also taking its toll on her mental health. As she awaits her swab test results, her constant cough and colds make her worry even more, especially that her 65-year-old mother might get infected.
Recently, hindi talaga ako makatulog ng maayos, to be honest with you. Ayun nga, dahil nga sa sobrang hindi ko alam kung ano yung mangyayari. Kasi pumapasok sa isip ko ngayon, parang ang daming negative eh. No? And nagiging struggle ko rin talaga to balance my own thoughts and emotions.
Bernadette in fact says she was once diagnosed with depression and has had multiple attempts to end her life. Fortunately, it did not get the best of her. She joined a life coaching class and her outlook on life has since improved.
Malaki yung naging improvement ko when it comes to to my emotional and mental well-being. Kasi sobrang laking tulong din sa akin talaga na I'm in a life coaching community and I also have my church family, and with all this support, nagbago yung perspective ko. I came to a realization that I wanted to get out of that situation.
Dr. Bernard Argamosa of the National Center for Mental Health notes that the lack of a support system, especially during this time, is really taxing.
Unfortunately, nagkakaroon ng mga suicide, nagkakaroon po ng mga homicide, kasi yung kanilang because of the overwhelming stressor, weeks of it, wala siyang support, mag-iisa siya sa buhay, nakikita niyang naghihirap yung kanyang kamag-anak, anak, asawa, kinuha niya yung mga dati niyang coping for the past days and weeks. Unfortunately, hindi talaga kaya. Yun, yung overwhelming situation na yun ang magbe-break sa isip ng tao. Kaya may mga nagkakaroon ng attempts to hurt oneself, hurt the family. Yun po yun.
For a mental health advocate group, family is everything right now as the country grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic.
The importance of family. Kasi kung sa pamilya pa lang, ma-address na itong mga issues na to, na galit and all, because of the values that we try to inject during their formative years, again, din maiiwasan mental condition, maiiwasan yung suicide. People will be open about their feelings without fear na hindi sila naiintindihan.
Okay.
As the world commemorates Suicide Prevention Day on September 10, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines reiterates the role of the Church in helping those who have mental health problems.
Lalong-lalo na ngayon, Carmelo, na nasa krisis tayo, so hindi dapat na nawawala ang simbahan. Hindi dapat nawawala yung mga pastol, yung mga kura-parokong katulad namin. So we should make our presence felt. And so how do we do that? Medyo hampered din tayo ng physical presence. Kami po ay patuloy na nagbibisa. At sa mga mensahe na pinalalabas natin, there's always a message of hope. We can always find consolation in the Word of God. So that's always been the theme of our celebration.
According to the NCMH, they are now receiving at least 1,000 calls per month since the pandemic began, from 300 to 400 per month last year. Almost 500 of this year's calls are from people who are at risk of self-harm. Dr. Argamosa urges the public to set urgent consultations to mental health experts. If you or anyone you know is in need of help, please contact NCMH at 1553-0917-899 USAP or 8727 or 027989 USAP or 8727. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
We'll pause for a short break. More stories when we return. Please stay with us. Good evening, I'm Bobby Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Some lawmakers have confronted PNP Chief Camilo Casculan over red tagging activities done by local police stations on social media. PCO Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy, meanwhile, brushed off calls for her to resign after allegedly accusing some congressmen as communists. Ria Fernandez tells us more.
Progressive House lawmakers continue to grill government agencies and officials allegedly involved in red tagging activities. For today's budget hearing, the Philippine National Police was put in the hot seat. ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro expressed frustration over police stations in some provinces like Leyte and Romblon for accusing them as communists in their official social media pages. PNP Chief Camilo Casculan distanced himself from these actions. He said that labeling some lawmakers as communists is not part of their policy. He assured lawmakers that he will look into this matter and order the removal of malicious posts.
We never sanctioned, ma'am, any kind of red tagging of the PNP. That is why we continue to investigate together with the anti-cybercrime group of the PNP with regard to this post. Please give me maybe in 2 weeks' time to give you the results so that we would be able to come up with the measures.
Meanwhile, Presidential Communications Operations Office or PCOO Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy defied calls of Makabayan lawmakers to resign in view of her red tagging activities. In her Facebook post, Badoy said she shouldn't be the one stepping down because she did not dupe nor hurt anyone. She also said that the Solons must now give the red tag charge a rest, claiming that it will only be thrown out by courts for lack of merit. During yesterday's deliberation of the House on PCOO's budget, Makabayan lawmakers expressed disappointment on Badoy's use of her position and public funds to attack them.
At kung hindi niya masasubstantiate yung mga sinabi niya diyan, gamit ang pondo ng ating gobyerno, gamit ang kanyang posisyon, ito po ay threatened kami.
We will in fact take serious consideration on the budget being proposed by this office, PCOO, kung ganun-ganun lang din na ginagamit yung budget na ito sa pang-aatake, red tagging, terrorist tagging.
Badoy was present, but she was not given the chance to respond. Instead, PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar clarified that Badoy's posts do not reflect his agency.
Presidential Communications Operations Office, and with all of its attached agencies, is not the spokesperson of the NTF-LCAC, or for the President for that matter. The Presidential Communications Operations Office is a mere platform for the national government to use. The content does not come from the PCOO. It is the presidential spokesperson who creates the content.
Still, the House Appropriations Committee decided to suspend the hearing until further notice, placing the agency's budget in limbo. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
The DNR says it will conduct another study on dolomite sand materials dumped along Manila Bay to settle all doubts on its safety. But environment groups are pushing for an independent body to do the probe. Charla Francisco with the story.
Sinasabi po sa mga medical literatures, first, yung dolomite dust, pag naging dust na siya, nag-aerosolize sa air, it can cause respiratory issues, no, or effects to a person. Also, kapag napunta sa mata, nagkakaroon ng konting irritation and you just have to wash it off with water. The third, kapag na-ingest. Pag na-ingest ito, it can have parang discomfort sa gastrointestinal system natin.
This was Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres speaking on Monday on the potential health hazards that might be brought by dolomites in Manila Bay. 2 days later, the Health Department released a statement clarifying that dolomite materials in bulk state is not a known health hazard. It also quoted the Department of Environment and Natural Resources saying the dolomite materials used as artificial sand in Manila Bay is 100 times bigger than dust and therefore does not get suspended in the air. But for toxicologist Dr. Romy Quijano, it is not yet certain whether the dust were totally removed from the sand. Quijano also notes that there may be heavy metals including mercury in it.
And even if walang respirable dust, sinabi ko na nga kanina, yung toxic chemicals dyan like mercury and other heavy metals, hindi lang naman sa dust yun, nandun mismo sa material yan and it could leach out. Hindi lang naman yung direktong exposure ng tao. Yung mga sinasabi kong toxic chemicals na kakagas mula dyan, pupunta sa tubig yan sa Manila Bay.
To settle whether the artificial sand now in Baywalk is indeed safe, green groups have challenged the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to test the material to determine the potential presence of metals in it. These groups said they are willing to take samples and submit it to accredited laboratory if DNR refuses to conduct a study.
Pwedeng i-resort ito, hingi muna tayo ng request sa government kung i-allow tayo mag-gather ng samples, but best if Department of Health should do it kasi kung health impacts ito. And then, and maybe ito yung sana kung mag-investigate ang Senado, they can also compel our government agencies to do that or mag-on-site inspection. I don't think we'd be allowed to go there and collect samples, but through the intercession of the Senate or House of Representatives, pwede rin yung gawin.
The groups, however, note that the study should be conducted by a third-party organization and that samples should be taken with all stakeholders present. But the DNR insists that the third-party analysis was already done and results show that dolomite sand does not have any heavy metal content. But to appease the groups, they are set to conduct another study.
We will still check it, no? For us to be, yung para maging panatag ang kalooban natin. Safe dito kung kaya iniutos na po ng ating pong kalihim Roy A. Simatu na mag-conduct din ng check kung meron bang heavy metals, itong mga low stones.
Antiporda says the analysis will take 2 weeks. After that, they can release it to the public. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
And here are the other big stories today. 5 seafarers on MV Dapeng Star from China are the first to benefit from the recently opened crew change hub in Subic after having been on board for months. The Transportation Department's maritime sector activated the hub last August 22 in line with efforts to help address the global demand for seafarers amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The hubs will help stranded seafarers with expired or extended contracts due to COVID-19. Other hubs are located at the Port of Manila and Port Capinpin in Orion, Bataan. Over 80,000 Filipino seafarers remain stranded on their ships worldwide, as according to the DOTR. Trial courts will now handle proceedings on the petition of 22 prisoners for temporary release amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This is according to an announcement made by the Supreme Court earlier today. The High Court noted that since all petitioners have been charged with offenses punishable by reclusion perpetua or up to 40 years imprisonment, they are not eligible for bail. But the Supreme Court has treated the petition as application for bail, citing the dangers to health posed by imprisonment. Human rights groups have since flagged possible transmission of COVID-19 among overcrowded jails and detention facilities in the country. The Japanese Coast Guard has called off its full-time search operations for the missing crewmen of Gulf Livestock 1. According to the Foreign Affairs Department, the Japanese Coast Guard is now back to its usual patrol arrangements after it failed to find any traces of the ill-fated ship since September 5. 39 Filipino seafarers were among those on board the vessel when it capsized last week after facing bad weather. 2 of them were already rescued, 1 died. The National Telecommunications Commission has recalled all television and radio frequencies assigned to Abs-Cbn. In its September 9 decision, the NTC said it ordered the recall since Abs-Cbn has no congressional franchise to operate anymore. The media giant's franchise expired last May 4. The Supreme Court has dismissed Abs-Cbn's petition challenging the NTC's cease and desist order. Representatives who advocated for the network shutdown have also proposed giving Abs-Cbn's frequencies to other franchise applicants and to have the network's assets seized. As the COVID-19 crisis forces more work at home and online learning arrangements, telco giant PLDT says it is working with both public and private partners to push for improved digital solutions. In an online forum, PLDT executives said the company is currently working with the Department of Education in its learning portal service, DepEd Commons. PLDT is helping design different tech solutions, management systems, and e-learning load offers to help DepEd shift to distance learning. Meanwhile, in an interview with Business World Live, PLDT Chief Revenue Officer Al Panlilio said they are looking at a number of ways to address the surge in network demand this pandemic. PLDT is also targeting to bump up its capital expenditure this year to at least 70 billion pesos. Telco giants looking to raise its installation capacity and to migrate at least 30,000 DSL subscribers to fiber by the end of the year. Panlilio added they are improving their packages and challenging themselves to provide speeds at par with regional neighbors.
We want to compare ourselves with countries like Thailand or Vietnam, where maybe the average speeds will be between 25 to 30 Mbps. At those speeds, I think working from home, studying from home, you will have a good experience already in terms of connectivity.
Are you struggling with foggy glasses when wearing face masks? A South Korean company has invented a battery-powered face mask to prevent this from happening. LG Electronics calls its latest invention Curicare Wearable, a one-size-fits-all face mask that weighs as much as a pair of ski goggles. It features two fans and high-efficiency particulate air or HEPA filters that can clean air that comes in and out of the mask. According to its developers, this technology will help address problems in breathing difficulties and fogged-up goggles while still being protected against COVID-19. The mask comes with a case that doubles as a charger. It also has a UV light for disinfection purposes. LG says the mask will be available in the market before the end of the year. Its price yet to be released. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow, 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.